They are currently bombing Iran like it's Gaza. I know. They're carpet bombing the shit out of heavily populated areas while they also simultaneously are bombing. Like they're doing precise bombings on. Look, there's two different assessments here. If you look at like the OSINT side that is pro IRGC, or at least like, you know, more sympathetic to IRGC, broadly speaking, they keep saying, oh, America is only striking like naval assets that Iran left behind unattended, or like a couple old ass fucking planes that they were never going to fly anyway. And that for the most part, like they're claiming victory on some of these launchers that they've exploded. But when you actually look at the videos of the launchers that they've exploded, those are like single use launchers. They're not like incredibly expensive equipment at all, right? Like you're basically celebrating blowing up technicals, right? On the American side, the pro-American OSIT side looks at the situation and says Iran is getting destroyed. They're obviously you know, carpet bombing heavily populated areas, and these war crimes are awesome. They love the war crimes. They're doing the war crimes to liberate the Iranian people from their mortal coil, from their bodies, obviously. And I'll show you some of these scenes as well. But then outside of that, they think that the American and Israeli bombing campaigns have been remarkably successful in taking out all of the missile launchers, right? They're like, they're doing it. They're doing the damn thing. They're taking out all the missile launchers. They're destroying the missile launchers, all this stuff, right? What is OSINT? OSINT is open source intelligence. It's just a bunch of dudes on Twitter trying to make sense of what the fuck's going on. And it's, at this stage, it's mostly just AI. Everything is AI. Literally everything is AI. I've seen so much AI on both sides of this conflict. It's very, very frustrating. Zohran is a 12er Shia, so they killed his Pope and then asked him how he felt about it. I mean, it's complex. It's complex. I don't know. I've never actually asked Zohran personally, like how he feels about that situation at all. And I don't know really. I mean, he's a fucking American. Okay. Zohran is an American. So I don't know how that works. But yeah, look at the situation. This is what Iran looks like right now. Also, I'm a little bit worried. There might be some TOS here potentially. Oh, there's a dude who was like, yeah, I mean, the scenes out of Iran are apocalyptic, right? And every time I see someone dancing on the fucking timeline, anytime I see someone dancing on the fucking timeline, it's just like, it's disgusting to me, because this is what I see, right? Most Arab state-aligned news channels are only showing the carpet bombing of Tehran and reporting that the U.S. has halved Iran's launch sites. Yes, it is quite difficult because Iran has no allies whatsoever, with the exception of like the third world or whatever, or people who have opinions on American imperialism or Israeli imperialism. Iran doesn't have any like state-backed allies for the most part, right? You got maybe China. Russia's too busy doing not dissimilar things to what America's doing, but in Ukraine, and like North Korea, right? So for that reason, you're not going to get a lot of major news sites covering the perspective of the Iranian population, no matter how complex it is, no matter how many people, that might support the regime, right? Like this kind of stuff is rarely ever seen on Western news. Western news is very much unified on offering justifications as to why this kind of bloodshed has to be done, right? They'll critique the American government a little bit. Maybe they'll even critique the Israeli government, but ultimately they're constantly pumping propaganda to justify this kind of action by being like, well, the Iranian government is ruthless. Like Iranians want to be free of Islam, like this chatter is saying, you know what I mean? Also, for a lot of Americans, like what they don't comprehend is that there is also a very racialized element internally within Iranian society about this kind of stuff too. There's like sectarian infighting about this and in their perspective as well. And then add to that the instability that is being caused alongside the fucking bombing campaigns and whatnot. And now people are saying that the Iranian government is cutting off access to the internet. And you have a completely chaotic situation. I literally know some religious Iranians in London, Lamal. I think at the end of the day, what I want is very clear. Like what my preference is of course for Iran to, my highest priority is for Iran to remain a sovereign nation where the people are free to get their democratic wishes across. What I believe would be the best possible scenario, which is utterly immaterial and utterly irrelevant in the grand scheme of things, is like for Iran to be a fucking, you know, communist country. That would be awesome. Okay. It's not going to happen, and it's utter fantasy, so I'm not going to even fucking bring that shit up. Also, I live in America. My tax dollars are contributing to this death and destruction, so I'm not going to sit here and be like, this is what should happen in Iran. Khamenei was not even remotely comparable to the Pope or the Catholics, lol. Not to get into the nitty-gritty, but basically the Iranian government believes in a concept called wilayat al-faqih. Essentially, the government must be run by, yes. I mean, that's not that complex. That is literally the main fucking difference between Shia governance and Sunni governance is that. That's why there are a lot of countries that are Sunni that are secular as well, as opposed to Shia countries that are supposed to have you can have your democratic government, but then on top of the democratic government sits a group of religious clerics that still ensure that the government is operating in a religious manner. Many 12ers in Iran and outside don't agree with this, regardless, not similar to the Pope at all. Yeah. Yeah. There's also another like competing Shia Pope as well, kind of. So you're wrong. This is specific to Khamenei. It's not just Shia, although it is somewhat in line with historical Shiism. Guys, there is literally no reason for us to go through the theological justifications for different variants between in Shia Islam, not even like talking about sex between Shia and Sunni, but literal variants amongst the Shia interpretation of Islam about religious governance and like what the clerics are supposed to, what role the clerics are supposed to fucking play. We have taken a million different sidesteps at this point from the incident that's unfolding in front of our eyes. Okay, it's okay to like dial it back. Like we're having this conversation. Meanwhile, the American and Israeli government literally blew up the clerics meeting that was supposed to take place earlier today, where they were supposed to pick the next Ayatollah, right? Because there's three, from what I understand, there's three in the line of succession that were chosen ahead of time in the 12-day war. And now you got like 90 clerics getting together and picking who the next Ayatollah is supposed to be. And then the American government fucking blew up that meeting. Not being able to dial any of it back is why the religious sects exist in the first place. So that's a non-starter. Yes, but it's irrelevant to our current analysis. You know what I mean? Because like America's not bomb. America is not bombing Iran, or Israel's not bombing Iran because they're like they think that the Iranian interpretation of Shia Islam is not theologically accurate to the way that Shia Islam is supposed to have like a functioning religious body that is separated from the government, as opposed to the functioning religious body that sits on top of the government. That's the reason why I'm saying like it's fucking immaterial. What the fuck? Yeah, America doesn't believe in Shia Islam. That's why they're actually Salafists. They all believe that Sunni Islam is the way. Muhammad is the prophet. That's it. Nothing else. That's why they're bombing Iran, actually, it turns out. Judging by their allegiances in the region, I wouldn't put it past them, but that's a totally separate point as well. Yes, Trump is Sunni. Trump is a Wahhabist. And that's why he's bombing Iran. Anyway. Two-day party in Iran was communist, but Soviet Union just used them for their oil without really helping. Okay, well, that's also a bygone era, and it's not relevant in this conversation because we're not having. This is not an assessment. This is not an assessment of like how Iran chooses to self-govern. Okay, I'm not having a conversation about that. I have my own thoughts on it. Obviously, I don't fucking agree with it. I'm a socialist, and not only am I a socialist, but I'm also a secular socialist as well, even though I'm fairly agnostic when it comes to, people's religious beliefs. And again, it's just, this has nothing to do with what's going on in Iran regardless. Although I will say, historically, Khomeini and Khamenei have aligned themselves with revolutionary anti-imperialist sects and socialists in general. So that is true. And also the Iranian revolution initially wasn't just entirely comprised of like the Islamists. It also had it was a popular revolution, and it had a fuck ton of socialists and communists and anti-imperialists in general. It was an anti-imperialist act. So is Iran losing the steam to fight or what? I don't think it's about losing steam necessarily. It's more so about its capacity. So that's the question. The question is, do they still have the capacity, or are they losing that capacity? Is America diminishing its capacity to strike Israel? Is America diminishing its capacity to strike the Gulf states, right? And the jury's out on that. The jury's out on that, at least for the time being. The only way that you can make an accurate prediction on if their capacity is diminished or not is by judging the efficiency in their strikes, right? If they are continuously and it is obvious that they have the intensity in which they're bombing Israel has lowered. It's no longer as they're no longer striking Tel Aviv as hard, and I suspect that part of that is because they have been able to, like, the Israeli and the American bombing campaigns have been somewhat successful, and some of the launches. I'm talking about Israel, chat. You're talking about Dubai. Dubai does not have the same fucking defense systems. The Gulf states are still getting rocked. The ones that are bombing Israel, however, I'm using my language very precisely and very specifically, okay? The Gulf states are still getting slammed. Okay? The Gulf states are still getting slammed. They're still blowing up, potentially they're blowing up the consulates. They're using drones. They're using ballistic missiles as well. Okay? But that's separate. I'm talking about Israel. Are they capable of eating away at Israel's ballistic defenses? And they're not striking Israel as hard as they were before. Okay? Anyway, let's get started here, and then I'll get to all the
Right
other
now
stuff in a
the Middle East,
second.
the
I gotta go
bombing is
pee.
intensifying, with Israel hitting the compound of the group responsible for choosing Iran's next supreme leader. The strike reportedly obliterated a compound where an Iranian council was supposed to elect the new Ayatollah. Now, Iran state media is reporting that it was evacuated before the attack, and President Trump is saying that it's now even more unclear who might next lead that nation.
Do you have someone in mind right now? Because you said all the people you did have in mind have been taken out. What do you think?
Well, most of the people we had in mind are dead. So, you know, we had some in mind from that group that is dead. And now we have another group. They may be dead also, based on reports.
CNN's Nick Payton-Walsh joins us live now from northern Israeli city of Kiryat Shimona. So, Nick, just in terms of the compound where several Iranian officials have gathered to choose the next supreme leader, just walk us through what we know in terms of that compound being targeted.
Yeah, sure. Now, the images are publicly available of significant damage to this compound in the city of Qom, where the assembly of experts, according to Israeli sources, gathered. That's 88 senior clerics to essentially choose the new supreme leader. Iranian state media, though, is saying that the building was evacuated prior to the strike, essentially saying that the bid by the Israelis here to kill the committee that would anoint the Ayatollah successor was unsuccessful. We don't know the truth of the matter here, and it's important to point out that earlier on, you know, when we were seeing significant casualties amongst Iran's leadership, we were getting signals from Iranian state media that many of them were actually okay. So it's important here to try and assess the exact truth of all of this. Remarkable, frankly, if indeed 88 senior clerics charged.
In my head canon, I'm thinking that Donald Trump wants to be a part of the cleric meet, and that's why he's doing this, where he's like, I want to be the one who picks the new Ayatollah. I have complete command over Shia Islam. I've been reading the scripture. I've been reading the surahs. I have complete command over this religion. I would like to be a part of the decision-making process. And I think that's what it is. That's why he's like, don't do it without me. Do not do it without me. Trump is a Sufi. No, he's Shia.
With this extraordinary task would in 2026 think they could only do it after the assassination of Ayatollah Khamenei in a large group meeting of leadership, decide that they needed to replicate that kind of setting in order to choose a successor.
Iran is a theocracy, good luck is an ideology. It's infinitely more complex than that. Okay.
I should point out too that a similar facility of the Assembly of Experts was targeted in Tehran in the recent days as well. So a pattern here potentially of the Israelis trying to disrupt the succession process. Now, I should point out how incredibly complicated this particular leadership vacuum makes things in terms of de-escalating this war, looking for negotiation. It's clear from some senior Iranian officials, the foreign minister indeed, that the military now in Iran is acting with some degree of autonomy, even with previous
Trump joined the Shia voice and he won, and he was able to win in the VAR when he demanded that he read the surah perfectly and the imam told him you were wrong. He said, excuse me, put the VAR on, turn on the VAR. I did say la at the end of the surah. You are wrong. My recitation of the Quranic verses are perfect. Many people are saying the law was pronounced perfectly. And then the imam was like, I'll give you my abaya if you're right. And he said, Astaghfirullah. Astaghfirullah. I would not like your abaya, my good sir. It's too much for me. Yeah, Trump said,
may Allah awaken the people and help them to see the evil doings of Israel and the United States.
I must remain humble. I could not accept your abaya, my good sir.
Issued instructions, so it's not entirely clear if day by day their tasks are being adapted to the particular moment. And if you're also trying to perhaps look for an off-ramp, some kind of negotiation here. If there's nobody in a society as autocratic as Iran actually specifically calling the shots, remember they've been dependent on the word of the Ayatollah Khomeini for nigh on 40 years now to tell them precisely what path should be chosen, particularly in a moment as key as this. That is a very perilous moment of vacuum, essentially. You can understand why Israel, that's keen to see regime change and as much damage as possible can be done to Iran's autocracy, will continue to persist with that leadership interruption. But if you are in the White House now and looking for some moment perhaps where you could seek an off-ramp, it's going to be exceptionally hard to do that with what we're seeing now in terms of strikes against the body to choose the Ayatollah's successor.
Israel has bombed the...
By the way, I love that we're doing sane washing a little bit, or not even sane washing, but like trying to predict what the goals are here when it's like very obvious to anyone with working brain cells that the administration has no real definable goals here. They're just going along for the journey, and Israel's goals are the ones that trump the American goals here, and even Trump's goals. And that is just complete destabilization, death and destruction, and making sure that the Iranian capacity to ever combat Israel's expansionist goals, Israel's expansionist agenda is reduced, if not completely destroyed. Okay? They want to turn it into Syria or Libya. So whenever they talk about like, oh, well, it doesn't make any sense why they would be doing this, like, because technically, if you want to get an off-ramp here, if you want to have an off-ramp for a ceasefire, and if you want like Iran to stop bombing Israel and the Gulf states, and if you want Iran to no longer like potentially collapse global energy markets by threatening the Strait of Hormuz and shutting it off entirely, then you got to let them fucking elect whoever the Ayatollah is going to be, right? And then deal with whoever the next Ayatollah is. Like, that is what it would look like. That is how it would work. Unless Donald Trump is weirdly thinking the IRGC hardliners are much better to deal with than the Ayatollah because they're more pragmatic, they're more strategic, they're not as invested in like, they're not as pious, I guess, as the Ayatollah is, and he's fond of them. He wants Iran to be run by the IRGC as a military junta, and I doubt that that's the case, right? He's like, this Ali guy, very smart. Did you know he's studied Kantian philosophy? Brilliant guy. Lot of war fighting experience. Want to talk to that guy. Want to talk to that guy and hear about what he thinks about Kant. Probably not the case, right? Fun fact, the IRGC were the primary investors in Trump Tower Baku. Oh, that makes so much sense. So, yeah. Ali, he's so handsome. Have you seen these Iranian guys? I'm looking at it and I'm hearing Reza Pahlavi, right? Everyone says Reza. Reza is the Shah. He needs to be the Shah. But I look at this Reza guy. He's brown as hell. I don't understand it. Who's the white one? Who's the real Aryan? Every Muslim man I talk to, they look white as hell. Handsome. So handsome. Reza Pahlavi looks way more Arab than the other guys. I'm going to go with the other guys. Actually, low-key, I could totally see Donald Trump. At some point being like, you know, all these guys, they keep saying, all these Iranians, they keep saying to me, we're Aryan, we're Aryan, we're Aryan. And then I look at these guys in the IRGC, and all of the guys in the IRGC are white. They look like they could be in Europe. Straight out of Central Casting. Have you seen it? The Quds Force. Half of the Quds Force commanders look like they're right out of Central Casting. Hasanabi, why are you suppressing news from Israel? What do you mean? I watch CNN and CBS. I watch American news, chatter. It's virtually impossible for me to suppress news from Israel. American news is Israeli news. Brother, we had the Israeli prime minister on primetime television last night addressing the nation. Fuck you mean I'm suppressing news from Israel? I basically work for Haaretz at this point. Anyway, where was I? No, this is the kind of, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Look, the Iranian monarch's deepest challenge remains that their dear leader is very brown and the Islamic Republic leadership is very white. It is kind of funny. Not true. If you want to actually see Israeli news, just watch German news. American news are tame compared to that. Yeah, this is pretty crazy. I saw this earlier today. Some military commanders have reportedly been accused of telling the troops that the Iran war is part of a biblical plan that triggered the end times. I know. I got that too. Don't worry. Iran live updates. Trump says Navy will escort tankers through the Strait of Hormuz. I genuinely don't understand why Donald Trump thinks this is a good idea. Like, are you actively putting American troops in harm's way? Okay? This is how you do it. We all know what image we're thinking of, right? It's the image of naval assets being sunk in the Strait of Hormuz, directly in striking distance. Okay? They will fucking pepper that shit with drones. I know these guys have complicated equipment. I know these ships have like tremendous defenses, but if you are trying to Pearl Harbor your naval assets, as the IRGC Mosaic teams are using it as like target practice, slow moving target practice with like drone swarms and ballistic missiles as well. I mean, go ahead, but I feel like this is I don't think this is a smart idea. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they have the smoke. Maybe they have the capabilities of like stopping. Maybe they have the capabilities of stopping the launchers ahead of time, but this seems like an unnecessary risk to take. Yeah, especially, I mean, dude, listen. I feel like the Houthis are also waiting to get active. Our Navy is outdated. No, it's not. That's not true. We have a remarkable Navy. We have all the sophisticated equipment, but it doesn't matter. You can have the best equipment, but if the opposition has unlimited missile barrages, the most sophisticated equipment of all time, which would be like the entire Israeli ballistic and short-range missile defense systems, still fucking fall apart. And we're talking about a much shorter range at this point. We're talking about a much shorter ballistics trajectory and much less sophisticated equipment. There's no like early advanced warning systems that are calculating missile trajectory ahead of time, warning the Israeli defenses ahead of time as the missile is like traversing, 300 plus kilometers. We're talking about a missile that's just immediately launched and then struck. It's like it's a very different ball game at that point. And I don't know how you get away with that. I don't know how you deal with that. Especially considering that Dubai and Riyadh and Bahrain especially Bahrain is a great example of what Iran has within its capabilities, especially in short distance, right? Like this Fresh off the U.S. fleeing the Gulf of Aden because semi-state actor Houthis missiles were too dangerous for our gold-plated fleet. Trump has a brilliant idea. Exactly. Like, we literally, okay, a lot of people get mad at me and say, Hasan, you love the Houthis, like they're fucking reactionary, blah, 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 all this shit. But the Houthis were not only totally vindicated in their actions as far as the blockade on the Red Sea, but the Houthis also straight up caused the American Navy to evade the targeting distance of the Houthis. And they don't have as sophisticated equipment. Their equipment is nowhere near as sophisticated as the Iranians are, right? Iran is the main funder and main Iran is basically the ones that are making the fucking missiles and the munitions and sending it to the Ansar Allah movement in Yemen. Like, I don't know how if you had a hard time with, as Mark Ames said, the semi-state actor, the Ansar Allah movement, how the fuck do you deal with the Iranians right in their backyard? Effective immediately, I've ordered the United States Development Finance Corporation to provide at a very reasonable price political risk insurance and guarantees for the financial security of all maritime trade, especially energy traveling through the Gulf. This will be available to all shipping lines. Oh my God. The United States Navy will begin escorting tankers through the Strait of Hormuz as soon as possible. No matter what, the United States will ensure free flow of energy to the world. The United States' economic and military might is the greatest on earth. We are testing it. We're testing it. We're testing it. We're testing it. We're doing it. We're going all the way. We're testing it. It feels like Trump is just like, look, we had to do this for Israel, and now I'm kind of stuck in the shit. I'm stuck in the mud. And instead of de-escalating, I'm going to see if the Iranians actually have the capability of sinking a naval asset in the Strait of Hormuz as it is towing a fucking oil tanker. That is crazy. I don't know. I'm not like, yes, I know the U.S. consulate was hit in Dubai. Stop. Why are you fucking blasting it in the chat? We're going to get to it. Okay, there's more significant updates here. Okay, calm down. Jesus Christ. The reason why the Gulf targets, the Gulf strikes are actually relevant in this equation is because if they can still continue pummeling the Gulf states, they can sure as shit pummel the American naval assets in the fucking region. Polish Oppenheimer looking into the middle distance after his 200th attempt at a baking soda vinegar volcano succeeds after 10 years of trial and error. Oh my God, this will end all life on Earth if we're not careful. Breaking, Poland said it will now work on getting its own nuclear weapons per Bloomberg. Oh, hell yeah. Oh, hell yeah. That's awesome. NATO country, by the way. Oh, dude, things are moving. Things are moving in ways that things are moving in ways that you never thought would move. Never thought. Things are moving so fast. The nothing ever happens guys are completely fucking losing. The monitoring the situation guys are totally on top. Okay? Hasanabi doctrine getting vindication. The end times are happening. It's a remarkable time to be alive, you know? Now is the time of monsters is right. We are officially in the weeks where decades happen, okay? You know how we talk about how there are decades where nothing happens and then there are weeks where decades happen? We're in that week. We are officially at the heart of the week where decades happen. Great acceleration, pushing Iran to a corner, and causing them to unleash the full might and their full capabilities, because you've backed them into a corner where they have to literally fight their way out of it, killing some of the more restrained elements within Iranian government, which ironically enough is something that I kept stressing over and over again, because like the Ayatollah is not super hands-on with all the military actions, but like he has final say on everything, right? And as I stressed to you over and over again, the Ayatollah was the most restrained guy outside of like the civilian government, right? The IRGC is not as restrained as the Ayatollah is, especially after they fucking cleaned the ranks of all the top IRGC people that were more restrained than the younger people that are now in charge. It's pretty wild how spectacular of a failure this has been. And the only W you have to carry for this whole thing, the only W that you can lean into is that you assassinated an 86-year-old man. It is in his home. And it's mind-boggling to me that they keep running around and talking about how exceptional the intelligence has been. It's like, what intelligence? You killed the 86-year-old leader of the fucking state in his home. What level of intelligence is required to find out that the dude was at his house? It's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling to me that they're running around being like, dude, Mossad intelligence on top, baby. It's like, bro, he's at his fucking house. He's at his house. You killed him at his house. What do you mean? This wasn't some remarkable feat. And if we're going to talk about intelligence failures, you also blew up a fucking school with little schoolgirls in it, with like 150 plus little girls going to school. Yeah, I also... they were like, just in, Israel spent years hacking Tehran's traffic cameras and monitoring bodyguards before assassinating Iranian Supreme Leader Khamenei. I said, you can't claim shit like this and then also act like October 7 was a total surprise. And this is also correct. They murdered an 86-year-old man, one who was willing to be a martyr in his home. I don't think it takes great intelligence to do that. It's like, oh, dude, this was a very sophisticated strike. This was a very sophisticated strike. Okay. What am I supposed to believe here? You know? It doesn't require tremendous sophistication when the dude is just unguarded, you know? He's just at his house. They're trying to sell it as a lot more intelligent than they actually are. That's what it is. Israel, Mossad does have some capabilities, okay? Mossad does have some unique capabilities in clandestine operations and like penetrating deep into Iranian governance, the IRGC. There's suspicion that like the one Quds force commander that keeps like evading all of the Israeli airstrikes might have been a Mossad asset all along. You know, they do stuff like that from time to time, but they also greatly overemphasize their capabilities. Like they regularly lie about how sophisticated their methods are. This is one of those instances, right? Like you're being ridiculous. Like you're trying to do marketing. You're trying to do fucking marketing when you talk about like, oh, we killed the Ayatollah. It was a really crazy operation. It's like, yeah, dude, he was 86 years old. He was at his house. Okay, he was at his house. You're just trying to do marketing. Calm the fuck down. Okay. In any case, getting back to where we were at, brother, have you actually spoken to a Persian about this? His house is the safest space in Tehran. His house doesn't exist anymore. So I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Clearly, objectively, that wasn't the case. It is actually. It was. Okay, so why the fuck did they try to move him to a basement or a safe site? And he refused. Also, I do want to, it was well guarded in Tehran. Oh, brother, there is no such thing, okay? There is no such thing. There is no such thing. I need you to understand. There is no such thing, okay? You have to move out of your house unless you want to get fucking lasered. America has bunker busters. What are you fucking talking about? There is no bunker capability in the world that can evade American bunker busters. Okay? It's simple. You just run away if you want to evade the American bombing campaigns. If you wanted to survive, you wouldn't be at your house. Yes, but it's 300 feet underground. Brother, do you not hear what I'm saying? He'd be in the fucking mountains, okay? He'd be in the fucking mountains. If they actually found out that he was in the goddamn mountains and they blew him up in the mountains, then I would say, okay, that's like a sophisticated surveillance operation. They actually found him as he was evading American bombing campaigns. They didn't find him in the mountains. They found him in his home. I don't know why we're arguing about this. And also, I don't even know why a Persian would be able to tell me what's what here. I don't care. Hasan, why are you not listening to this man's intel? Because it's utterly irrelevant. You can't standpoint theory your way into an American military operation that already unfolded, okay? Like what kind of bodies and spaces can someone do to me in this moment? I'm literally looking at the outcome of a fucking very high profile assassination that took place. You know what I mean? Like it was a highly publicized, incredibly high profile, unique assassination that took place. We know what happened. We know what they used. We know where the target was. I don't understand why you're trying to be like, oh, well, you don't understand. You need a bodies and spaces angle here. Yes, because he's famous for hiding in a bunker every time anything happens. Oh my God. Oh my God. I get it. You guys hate the Ayatollah. I understand. Okay. I don't particularly care for the Ayatollah myself. Okay. I don't give a shit. I'm just literally interpreting the things that unfolded. Okay. There is no standpoint epistemology you can do in this particular circumstance. Okay. It's just a thing that already happened. It does not matter if he had escaped to a bunker every other time. Okay? Also, my suspicion, and I'm sure you guys will agree with this, okay, is that he wanted to be martyred. He wanted to be fucking martyred. He knew he didn't have a lot of time anyway. He wanted to be martyred so he could literally galvanize the Shia population or the base of support and mobilize his popular base of support. And that's what has happened so far. Clearly that goal was achieved. He was 87 years old. By some accounts, he already had fucking cancer. He didn't have a lot of time left. It's not very complicated. I don't know why we're making it complicated. What percentage population is the base of support? Approximately 20 to 30%. We don't know the exact numbers. You can only work off of like the elections that do take place on who is voting for like a more conservative candidate versus a reformist candidate. It's all a wash, really. There's not really a very reliable metric here, but it's approximately 20 to 30% of the population that are like hardliners for the Ayatollah that ride for him. There's also other components. Most components in Iranian society are not fond of the Ayatollah for understandable reasons, whether it be corruption, whether it be the parallel state that they designed specifically to like avoid sanctions that created its own internal black market economy. There is also like a capital owning class within the IRGC structure that basically owns most of the Iranian government. And and who knows what those guys are gonna fucking do eventually, if they want to like cut a deal with Donald Trump or not. But basically, even the other side of Iranian society that are understandably anti-Ayatollah, anti-IRGC, are still not exactly fond of Israel and America either. And there are plenty of Western polls. There are plenty of Western polls to back up this this idea, because Western polls poll not only the Iranian diaspora, but Iranians living in Iran as well. And those guys have no interest in making the Ayatollah seem good, or they have no interest in making America or Israel look bad. But when polled consistently, the Iranian public has a majority disapproval of America's bombing campaigns. Obviously, if you look at the mainstream news in the Western world, makes it seem like 99% of Iranians are like, please keep bombing us. I love being bombed. It's my favorite thing. Please kill my grandmother. But it's actually not even popular. It's not even like majority popular in the diaspora population. Okay? So while you see the loudest voices, the voices that are being championed in mainstream news being like, oh, it's actually awesome. I hate the Ayatollah and I love that you're killing my grandparents. No, most people actually don't fucking like that. Like, most people who don't like the Ayatollah also don't like their grandparents being fucking carpet bombed. Remarkable. I know. Shocking. I know. What you see in mainstream news is oftentimes not the real story, not the full picture.
Well, joining me for more on this is Trita Parsi, co-founder and former president of the National Iranian-American Council. He's also the executive vice president of the Quincy Institute. Trita, thanks for your time. Where's your focus internally in Iran at the moment?
Well, let me first say I'm a little bit surprised by the package because you had three voices from Iran who seem to all be celebrating and happy about the country getting bombed. I'm sure that there are views of that kind, undoubtedly. But to leave the impression that that is the entire viewpoint inside of Iran is getting close to Iraq-level war propaganda and war lies, frankly.
What do you mean close to? It is that. It is literally, I mean, Trita's fine.
There's clearly a diversity of views inside that country, and plenty of people who, despite the fact that they obviously are very much against this regime that has been repressing them for so long, do not necessarily believe that they want to have war happen. They do not want to get killed in this bombing campaign or see the country be destroyed or go down the path of Iraq and Syria. So I'm a little bit surprised that those the only voices that you elevated were those specific voices that were in support of it, given the fact that clearly there must be much more diversity.
Assassination.
I don't know who's going to end up running Iran, but if the pattern holds, it'll be just something just stupid as fuck. Yeah. So what do I say to someone who says you should be happy for the Iranians that are happy and sad for the Iranians who are sad? Genuine ask. I have a tough time talking about this conflict without black and white thinking. What is going on? I don't understand. I don't understand. Like, who make up your own fucking mind? You can literally come to a conclusion on whether American imperialism is good or bad without having to lean into the domestic population's attitude that you're trying to poll one anecdote at a fucking time. Jesus Christ. I think this is liberal brain rot, okay? I will say it over and over again. It's like a childlike understanding of world-changing events. I don't understand. You don't have to engage in people-pleasing all the fucking time. You could just be like, hey, guys, I know that domestic repression has caused a lot of people to falsely believe that, like, American bombs are going to be a cause for liberation and a cause for celebration. But judging by past performance of American intervention and American imperialism, I am going to go ahead and assume that it's not going to yield to a positive outcome for the Iranian population, because I've seen Libya, I've seen Syria, I've seen Afghanistan, I've seen Iraq. And there is no reason why Iran would be any different, especially considering that the American government itself is inconsistent on what they want to do, what the plan, what the next stay forward is once, you know, they've done a decapitation strike on the entire leadership, as they did successfully. Okay? I'm done. I'm done with this. You cannot use standpoint epistemology to justify American intervention and American imperialism. Okay, it's ridiculous. I don't care. I don't care. I mean, you can fucking come in here and be like, you're an asshole. You're hurting the feelings of like the Iranians in diaspora that are saying my grandparents deserve death and destruction. I don't care. Okay, I know that this is like it's so weird because on my timeline, I'm seeing leftist, Marxist, Leninists talk about like, you know, America being zogged out. And on the other side, I'm seeing reactionary white nationalist neo-Nazis that are hopped up on American exceptionalism, running around talking about standpoint epistemology, about the Iranians. Why don't you center the Venezuelans in this conversation? Why don't you center the Iranians in this conversation? Why don't you center the Cubans in this conversation? And it always is the same shit, okay? What the fuck is happening? Make up your own goddamn mind, dude. What the fuck? You don't need to, like, which Iranians are we listening to, okay? That conversation is so stupid. Which Iranians are we listening to? Do you care about the wishes of the 20 to 30% that love the Ayatollah? Do you not care about that? Like, Khamenei was Iranian. He never left Iran once he actually became the Ayatollah, right? I mean, he literally was Iranian. Are we listening to his voices? Like, it's stupid. It's a stupid argument, okay? The problem is nobody reads or takes theory seriously. This is not even about theory. Just like close your eyes and think for a moment. I think you're losing is what's happening. Losing what? Losing what? What am I losing? I'm an American citizen living in the imperial core. I'm not losing shit whichever way this goes. I just have a certain set of values that I hold on to, and it's actually very frustrating for a lot of people because they've never actually developed their own value system, so they just think in terms of like, oh, the enemy team is losing, the anti-America team is losing, and the pro-America team is winning. You're a fucking moron. Who's winning and who's losing? Okay? My job here is to cut through the noise. My job here is to cut through the propaganda. You're losing the narrative. It happens. Losing what narrative? Like 90% of Americans think that Israel controls the country right now. What narrative am I fucking losing? Are you that stupid? Even on the narrative front, this is the most exceptionally unpopular war that America has ever waged. And you're over here watching fucking mainstream media coverage and deluding yourself into thinking that the average American in the heartland is actually totally on board with, you know, throwing American cattle at the behest of Israeli expansionist ambitions in the region. You're a fucking moron. You're losing the narrative. So what? Even if I was, so what? But it's not even the case, so it doesn't even fucking matter. Do you have no real conviction on your own? Do you have no real conviction? Do you have no opinion on this issue that doesn't revolve around what some fucking Twitch streamer believes, okay? You're a fucking idiot. We're talking about hundreds of lives being lost in the last couple of fucking days, literal children getting bombed in school, and you're over here being like, well, the Twitch streamer is losing the narrative. You have deluded yourself into thinking not even in terms of like team sports, America good, all of America's enemies bad, but now you've deluded yourself into team sports in the smallest way possible, like the brain of a fucking infant, okay? The brain of an infant on this one, where he's like, well, my least favorite Twitch streamer is losing the fucking narrative. What narrative? What loss? Who gives a shit? And it's so funny because like it's not even correct. You're not even correct. You're wrong. I mean, it's so predictable, to be honest. I wonder what their faces look like when they said, wait, where is Muhammad? And then got blown up. It's because they aren't the same type of Muslims. I see you're monitoring the situation. A death cult won't surrender. Kill them until they stop respawning. Do you think this is actually the popular narrative right now? Are you that fucking dumb? Are you that deluded that do you think this is the popular narrative? Yeah, maybe in fucking Israel. The only place on the planet where this has like super popular approval is Israel. Are you in Israel? Because anywhere else that you're at, anywhere else that you are currently tuning in from outside of Tel Aviv, this narrative is the unpopular one. Okay? It's the only thing that you hear from mainstream media. And in spite of the unlimited propaganda that is justifying American intervention here, the populations are not, they're not on board.